Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. This is where you ask your questions at @MarketingKitchen TV Twitter utilizing the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions right here on YouTube. Welcome, marketing chefs. I've got something truly special cooking in our Omni-Channel oven today. Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live Chapter 13. Up next in the Marketing Kitchen. Welcome to the kitchen, the Marketing Kitchen. Hi, I'm Ron Vining, your host of Marketing Kitchen TV. Welcome to @MarketingKitchen TV Q&A Live. All you need to do is go to @MarketingKitchen TV on Twitter, use the hashtag Q&A, and I will answer your questions here. Welcome back to Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. This is Chapter 13. As I mentioned, this was supposed to be a 12-chapter arc. However, I received a few extra questions, so I figured rather than make the other videos longer, I would do one more bonus episode. So this is a bonus Chapter 13 of our 12-part series for the summer 2020 session. And we have just 3 questions today that I'm going to answer, and I'm quite excited to do so. So thanks again for joining me. And I've been recording all day. If you notice, if you watched from Chapter 7 all the way now to Chapter 13, this outside window here, it went from lighter to darker. It wasn't actually a very bright day today because we were having monsoon rains the whole day. And when we weren't having monsoon rains, I was having an air show because all of the fighter jets and commercial aircraft were landing. They were diverted because of the rain. So it has been a fun, long day here in the Marketing Kitchen, and I'm about to drop. So let's take these 3 questions and let's just go. Let's just go for it right here. So Daniel asks, Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A, reduce economic reliance on a single nation has become a topic for many developed countries. How will American consumers be impacted as the global supply chain transforms? Well, I'm going to give an answer that may not be popular. Now, mind you, all right, how best to answer? I'm going to try to be political, and I'm going to be honest, and I'm also going to give you my own opinion at the same time. All 3 of those could be potentially dangerous. All right, the first is, as an American living and working in Asia for the past 11 years, now, I'm not outsourced in the sense that I actually moved to Asia. I got a job in an Asian-based company, not a Western company, but an Asian-based company in Singapore. I then went and got another consulting job and the same. And then the third job that I had here in Singapore, before I started my own business, I went to work for a French company that actually started a business here in Singapore. So they were all pretty much Asian businesses, so not outsourcing or any of that nature. One of the things that I have done, even with my own businesses that I started here in Singapore, is I provided not only Asian companies, also Western firms, my expertise in obviously all things management and marketing and digital and retail, etc., brand experience, themed experiences, storytelling, all of that stuff, right? So not only did I do that, but then I also served as a gateway to Western companies who wanted potentially to expand to Asia and or to outsource some of their work. Now, I actually, even though I'm here in Singapore, I also outsourced labor to the Philippines, where there is strong English-speaking talent that in a marketplace that does not charge the same amount of money as if I were to hire someone in here in Singapore, and that same person would be even more in the West. So somebody in America would be too expensive, someone in Singapore is costly, someone in the Philippines is quite reasonable, and they typically speak and write in fluent English. So fantastic for me. They're also, their education system's a bit similar to ours, if you will. They're quite westernized, even though they're still quite Asian. And but their mindset is a bit more Western, so their creativity would be like the type of that I could more easily collaborate with, let's just say. And so a lot of Western companies are friendly with that. And India has become quite successful for similar reasons as well. And whereas China and or say Taiwan before that, Japan before that, have become great manufacturing areas because of the way that their labor pool or force is set up. Just to give it, I guess, a little bit of backdrop. So all of that being said, and I'm not sure where you're coming from with the question, Daniel, so I'm just going to go with it, if that's okay with you. In the case of what's been happening between the United States and China, there's a situation where greed, so American corporations and their greed for profit, have outsourced just about every single function possible to cheaper markets, places where they can make more money, spend less, and therefore make more profits for typically things like manufacturing, but also for technology, also for consulting services. So for example, my clients aren't just Asian-based companies. I have a lot of Western companies that hire me because I'm hiring from different markets in the region. So overall, our cost could be a lot cheaper than if you were to find the equivalent of myself in the West, right? My hourly rate is typically more than even a consultant in the US. However, the team that I have, the economies of scale that we can do because I am outsourcing. Singapore is actually more expensive to do business in than America in many cases, but that's why I'm using foreign talent or outsourced talent so that I can keep my costs more competitive. Does that make sense? Greed, and I don't think that I'm greedy by saying what I just said there, on a much larger scale, whether let's say it's General Motors or it's Apple or a pharmaceutical company, they have really given up what they would be doing in the West and sending it to the East to be able to just make money. And a number of these companies too have expanded to other countries. I think about even too, you've probably seen in the news about like countries like Ireland and the issue with Apple. And Apple and other companies like LinkedIn is in Ireland, or well, I'm not sure the situation since Microsoft acquired them, but Ireland is a tax haven. So you're able to save money by parking money over there versus bringing it back to the US. All right, getting off topic. The question is about economic reliance. So American companies have been quite greedy. And then when we come to a situation where we're in a trade war with the United States, well, China sort of has America by the throat, for lack of a better term, because so much of what we don't make in America anymore. We make it in China, or we make it in Vietnam, or we make it in Malaysia or in Indonesia. And then sometimes what companies do for different tax breaks or also to make sure that they don't run foul of tariffs, they will manufacture part of it in one country, another part in another. So different pieces will be manufactured in different countries. They'll then all go to a country like Malaysia where they'll be assembled. So you'll have manufacturing factories in, say, Vietnam, or you'll have them in China, and then the parts will find their way to Malaysia, and then in Malaysia they will be assembled and then they'll be packaged, and that'll be called a pack center. Or sometimes the final product will go to the pack center. And then for tariff reasons, then it'll then be exported or imported into the United States from there. And these companies have complex supply chains, not only for the raw materials, but then also to be able to take advantage of the logistics of these tax savings. And then there are different tax agreements between different countries as well that all play into that. And then blocks of countries, like you might have heard of TPP, and that was the Trans-Pacific Partnership. And so TPP was something that President Trump nixed because he felt that that was not beneficial for America. And then a lot of South Asian countries were upset that America pulled out of that because that was sort of their anti-China or anyway, that was them tying up with America and not tying up with China. So in some respects, it did help American business, and in other respects, it then hurt us because those countries then were going to be more reliant on China. All right, answering your question, Daniel, I believe that economic reliance on any one country is foolhardy. If you will recall, President Trump, or maybe you don't, but 3 years ago, President Trump was ridiculed for him saying that he wanted to reopen steel plants in America so that American steel would be a viable business again. And this is important for several reasons. One, when you get into a war, what do you need? You need steel, you need to make bullets, you need to make armor, you need to make tanks, you need to make ships. Since most of our steel was coming from China, if we were to get into a war with China, who's going to make our steel? China certainly isn't going to do it then. And you can't just all of a sudden open up a factory overnight. So if you don't have active steel plants in America every day, then when you get into a critical situation, how are you going to be able to make steel? So number one, you can't take a factory that's been shuttered for 20 years and have it restart tomorrow. And you certainly can't take a factory that was torn down and turned into condominiums and make steel out of that tomorrow, right? You also need employees that are trained and know how to do that job to be able to work in that job tomorrow. Otherwise, you are in trouble. So when Trump wanted to bring back U.S. steel, he was criticized for it, but people aren't laughing about that now. People are thankful that that had happened. You look at the PPE, right, and all of the stuff related to surgical masks and face shields, and you look at pharmaceuticals. Most of this stuff was, again, coming from China, and China held on and threatened to hold on. And so putting America in the crosshairs in the midst of what was a trade war before the outbreak stretched across the globe. Sorry, this is a long answer. Good thing we only have 3 questions today, but this is a good question. So, what do we do from here? Well, America, I firmly believe, and every country. So I believe that every country should take care of its own, and I don't think that's wrong. And there's another thing. People say that the term nationalism is wrong. No, it depends on how you talk about the term nationalism. To me, there's nothing wrong with a political leader being concerned about his or her country and his or her people above everyone else. What is so wrong about that? Think about nationalism as your own family unit. So whether or not you're married and you have children, or whether or not you live at home and you have parents, grandparents, whatever the nucleus is there. But when push comes to shove, wouldn't you care for you and your family before you would care for a stranger? And I'm not saying that you should shun someone else, but if there are resources are scarce, who should you take care of first? Well, your first responsibility is to you and your family, correct? Well, nationalism is the same thing. And so that's the principle where you care for you and your country and its people above every other country. It doesn't mean that you don't have allies. It doesn't mean that you're not a good, friendly global citizen. It just means you got to take care of yourself. So one of the things that I hope, regardless of who wins the election in the fall, but I know who I'm voting for, you need a leader who is going to put America first. And that leader is going to say no to outsourcing. That leader is going to say no to tariffs that are favorable for products being imported from a foreign country, and that same foreign country not taking your exports at the same level or degree. There has to be a reciprocal, mutually beneficial relationship. So outsourcing is one issue, manufacturing is another, raw materials is another. One of the things that made America so strong over the past 3.5 years is the fact that America, for the first time ever, became an energy exporter. So we no longer were reliant upon Middle East oil to fuel America. So not only did we even have a surplus to take care of ourselves, we were also selling that to Europe, which put us at a strategic advantage over Russia, which was the primary supplier of fuel to Europe. So that helped strengthen the NATO alliance. And that it also put us at an advantage because we were no longer reliant on Saudi Arabia. And of course, Saudi Arabia and OPEC, their reaction to that was to reduce oil prices so that American shale oil would also go down in value. And so that sort of started a trade war. Let's get to the other question that you have. How will American consumers be impacted as the global supply chain transforms? Well, America will only be impacted on this if America does not start to build products in America. America will only be impacted by this if America doesn't start bringing jobs back to America. And I'm talking about all jobs. So I'm talking about administrative jobs, I'm talking about tech jobs, manufacturing jobs, you name it. All jobs across the board should come back to America. And any leader that really cares about the American people will understand and then try to do this. And it is a positive or negative for the long term. The virus coming to America and having come from our potential biggest rival on the planet was fantastic in the sense that, so stay with me here, like I don't think that the virus was fantastic. I'm saying it was fantastic in the sense that it woke people up. So people who were making fun of the Trump administration's policies on trade and outsourcing and tariffs, etc., with our biggest rivals, now are actually saying, wow, this guy was right. We need to bring stuff home. We need to not be reliant on one particular country. This whole nonsense about the US and Russia, again, this was going to be a bit politics. The United States and Russia need to be allies. And I'll say it again, the United States and Russia need to be allies. The best counterbalance to China, America's biggest rival, is Russia. If America with the United Kingdom and potentially the EU is so wishy-washy, but if they were to also bring Russia into the fold, then China and other Southeast Asian countries, not saying they're not powerhouses, and of course America would be aligned with India, and the Trump administration's made great relationships with India, of course with Taiwan, and of course Taiwan being adversarial with China, China believing that it owns Taiwan when it does not, and again, sorry, getting into politics, then there can be a more true counterbalance, and America isn't putting all of its eggs into one basket. I'm an Apple shareholder. I have been for 2 decades or more now, and I've been quite critical of Tim Cook for investing so much of his the Apple manufacturing infrastructure in China. And thankfully, the wake-up call came, and the products have been diversified to Israel, to Brazil, and then they're looking to also, of course some is in Taiwan, but they're looking to really expand it outside of China, of course as a counterbalance to what happened most recently. So what are the positive and negative long-term effects? I think that some of the short-term effects are going to be a little bit of pain. Companies like Walmart and Target and others that sell cheap goods from China will either have to raise prices or find new sourcing channels. Apple is spending billions of dollars to move their factory. Even though they're still manufacturing in China, they're building other locations to build in. So anyway, fantastic question, Daniel. I appreciate it. I appreciate you giving the opportunity to share this. I'm trying not to be political in the answer, and I'm trying not to give too much about my opinion in there, but that's just based on my expertise, having worked in supply chain, having worked for a number of these technology companies who have outsourced a lot of not only their brain power to the East, but also the manufacturing. And then of course are then sending it back to the US and then taking huge tax advantages. And it's really not fair to Americans like to get cheap products, but it's not fair in the long run if America is going to be out of resources as well as out of jobs, because a country without jobs is a poor country. All right, and a country without resources, a country without the ability to internally do all that it needs to do without relying on someone else is also going to be a weak country. So what made America great during World War I and World War II was the fact that we were self-reliant. America needs to be self-reliant again. America is blessed in its diversity not only of people, America is also blessed in its diversity of natural resources. And we have internally just about everything that we need, and we really do not. And I know most people are going to say, oh, how dare he say that? I mean, I'm a globalist, I understand. That's why I'm living internationally, right? But America really could go it alone, because America does have self-contained all the resources that it needs. I look at a country like Japan. Japan is a very nationalist country, and they pretty much are self-contained. Now, granted, being a self-contained country means that they were in a recession for the past 15 years or so, but they didn't need any other countries to help them out. Of course, America defends them, but that's an agreement coming out of, World War II. Okay, if you've got any, that was a mouthful, all of that. So if you've got any follow-up questions to that or comments or whatever, please let me know in the comment section below, and I'd love to engage with you further on that. But I obviously love international politics, and I like to talk about these particular subjects. As an aside, one of the things that really bothers me about a number of companies too that preach in America, they preach about civil rights, they preach about the environment, and it amazes me that they're doing business in countries that do not have the same level of environmental protection, and I guess that's okay. So in other words, they can complain that America isn't giving in to like the Paris Accord, but at the same time neither is China. And so why should America put itself at a disadvantage, and then why complain about America not being part of the Paris Environmental Accords when the number one place that you're manufacturing in is a far greater environmental threat to the planet than America ever will be. And that just bothers me. When it comes to civil rights, just about every company that's jumping onto the bandwagon about what's been happening in the past couple of weeks with civil rights, yet at the same time they've cozied up to, again, China, which is in the middle of doing ethnic cleansing against Muslim groups that live up in the north. But I guess let's not talk about that, right? Let's just complain about what's happening in America while giving billions of dollars to China because you're saving trillions of dollars in taxes or in gaining in profit. Very, very hypocritical. Okay, I just had to put that piece in. And I love Apple. I'm recording with my iPad, got my iPhone, got my Apple Watch, got my iPhone, got my MacBooks all around here. And also I got a huge chunk of stock. So I'm benefiting from it. So I guess I'm a hypocrite too, but at least I'm calling them out. And I guess I'm calling myself out. All right, Daniel, great question. All right, our second question today in chapter 13 is from Samantha. And Samantha says, there are tech tools to help us monitor and protect the health and safety of older generations. Should marketers target these at-risk older generations or the younger generation who is purchasing and implementing the monitoring? All right, let me try to digest that question for a second. There are tech tools to help us monitor and protect health and safety of older generations, okay. Should marketers target these at-risk older generations or the younger generation who is purchasing and implementing the monitoring? Okay, this is another one of, we get into these debates, I think, Samantha. I think we got into one of these older-younger questions on LinkedIn, didn't we? I think so. I'm against tech monitoring, even when it comes, so contact tracing and all of that, I'm highly opposed to that. I'm consistent in the sense that I believe that data tracking and your personal privacy are tantamount. I believe that technology should not be used as a tool to enslave mankind. And there's a very slippery slope. So when you start to use technology to restrict somebody from going in and out of their home, monitoring their movements, seeing whether or not they put them in a database to see whether or not they've had the virus and or if they've received treatment or a vaccine or have immunity to that, I appreciate the excuse. The excuse is, oh, it'll protect people and health and this and that. Sorry, that does not work for me. The slippery slope is if we do it for one, then what's going to happen the next time? And I'm also fearful that we're going to begin locking. So think about ankle bracelets, right? You think about people in situations that have committed a crime, they're released, they're on parole, and they have an ankle bracelet. Well, I have a real problem with the fact that technology today is being used just like that ankle bracelet. So whether it's your Apple Watch or it's your iPhone or whether it's a tracker, some governments are giving their citizens a digital token or a tracker to monitor their movements. Here in Singapore, I went out for the first time in a couple of months, like really went out for the first time in a couple of months. And I had to scan a QR code to get into the mall. I had to scan a QR code when I went into the restaurant. I had to scan another QR code to go into another store. I had to scan a QR code when I was going to leave the store. I had to scan a QR code when I was going to leave the mall. Do you get where I'm going here? Why? Why do I have to do this? I shouldn't have to do this. Now, somebody would say, oh, you don't have to do that if we do with Bluetooth, we just track you and they're not opting in. Well, sorry, I don't want that to happen either. And again, we have to be consistent about how our data is being used, because this will be used, I guarantee you, this will be used to enslave us. Now, a good government won't, but a bad government will. And who's to say that a good government today won't be a bad government tomorrow? Now, another example are companies. Some companies, right, your employee badge has an RFID chip in it. They track everywhere you go. So and if you know anybody that works in HR in one of these companies and they're willing to let you in on the secret, they can tell you where you are in the building at any given time. And with software, they're able to tell you, oh, well, you visit the toilet between 9 and 10 a.m. and you're there for a full hour every single day. Or we saw you check out from, floor 3 to floor 5. You must have a friend that works on that floor because we see that you're always in, and they would even be able to tell you whose office that you had been hanging out in for 2 hours a day, every single day. Or whether you're leaving the building and then going to a coffee shop down the street. Now, that bothers me. Some companies in Europe actually chip their employees. So rather than have, and this is for security purpose because they've got, high security jobs, then their movements are monitored 24/7 with an RFID chip implanted under their skin. We do this with soldiers, so I don't know how widespread it is, and anybody who's in the service, I know someone in our class is, or used to be, but once a Marine, always a Marine. And perhaps he could shine some light on that if he wants to, or if not, please don't come forward. But certain troops, either in mission, and I'm not sure if the chips are removed when you come out, but that's obviously to help, and I understand the purpose of that, but I would certainly want to have that chip extracted when one returns from, the battlefield or the theater that they're in. See, what bothers me, and you didn't do anything wrong, Samantha, but these are just like the buzzwords that are out there. At-risk older generations. And you've said the right words, but these are these buzzwords that make it sound okay. And slippery slope. So all right, so I think when you talk about from a marketing aspect, who should we be targeting? Well, I don't know what you're selling exactly. So if you are Huawei, who loves to sell spy technology around the globe, then you're going to target the purchaser of it, not the person who's going to be violated, whose privacy is going to be violated, right? Maybe I'm misunderstanding your question, and it's not as nefarious as it is there. I just think that we need to be honest with each other about what this future is going to look like. And whether you're older or somebody who's older, all right, like myself, who's lived free, it's very difficult to put somebody, so think about a wild animal. If you were, and think something simple as a turtle, okay? If you were to raise a turtle from hatchling to age 25, it's going to be quite fine with being in captivity. If I were to go to a pond and happen across a turtle, or maybe I'm just driving down the street and a turtle is in the middle of the road, I take it, I rescue it, I wasn't sure where it came from, so I bring it home and I put it in an aquarium. That adult turtle is not going to like being in that tank. And that turtle won't ever like being in that tank because they've always been free. So that older generation is going to remember what it was like to be free and want to remain that way. The younger generation, again, like that hatchling raised in an aquarium from day one, is going to be a lot more compliant. And I know that that's where people are going with this. When governments don't want to send kids back to school in the fall, when all of the medical data shows that children are pretty darn resilient and their immune system is greater than yours and mine, just due to age, they should be back in school. So a Machiavellian aspect of me says maybe they're not letting them go back to school because they're letting them see what it's like to be compliant and begin sort of building that in from the beginning. Again, maybe that I'm seeing it from a different viewpoint. But as a marketer, I think that you should target, I don't think that you should ever make an assumption based upon there's obviously targeting, there's obviously segmentation, but you never want to overestimate or underestimate the intelligence of your audience. You want to find that sweet spot and you want to talk to as many people as possible so that you don't offend them or leave them out. And that's sort of the best rule of thumb. One of the reasons why your syllabus and other course-related documents are as thorough as they are is because we're doing an online course together and I can't take the same one-on-one questions with many of you as I would if we were in a physical classroom. And understanding this aspect of communication, and you obviously need to be wary of overload, but the idea is that I try to do a middle of the road message, but then I also give a higher level, and then I also go into really finite detail for those interested so that I'm capturing 3 types of learners. And I used to actually offer a complete e-learning, so you could actually in PowerPoint, I had stick figures with talk bubbles that walked you through the entire course, because I used to develop e-learnings for corporations for their training, and most students said they didn't like that, so I ditched that. But again, that was trying to speak to the visual learner. And so it's really just about understanding who the audience is. Again, going back to what I always talk about, here's your product, here's your company, product, service, goals and objectives. Here's your customer, their wants, their needs, their desires, their level of understanding, the wallet, all the aspects about the consumer versus the enterprise. Here's your message, your channel, your conduit, the platform. And it's really about utilizing the right message at the right time, at the right price, that can best be easily understood or captured, hitting the want or need of that member of your audience or your customer base. All right, great question, Samantha. If you have a follow-up, let me know in the comments section below. All right, thanks a lot. All right, we have one more question today, and let me see if I can find it. I think this is Matt, and yes. So the third and final question. So that's it. That's 13 chapters, and this is our third and final question, and I'm going to answer it now. Let's see if I can take 50 minutes to do that. All right, let's see if I can take 5. All right, do companies that use digital marketing strategies have a responsibility to their customers to protect their data, or is that data the companies to do with as they please? This is great. This is a great follow-up, Matt, to Samantha's question that I just answered. And no, companies do not have the right to do whatever they want with that data. They should not anyhow. Remember, regardless of what it is, so if I download an application before I download that application, there are terms and conditions to that you typically agree to by downloading that app, correct? When you sign into a website, or if you agree to accept cookies, there are terms and conditions to that. So technically, you have signaled that you, and utilizing the social network, downloading a file, utilizing that app, even buying a smart TV, right? So when I got my LG TV, one of the first things you do when you sign into it, and of course you need to sign into it to be able to download the upgrades to the operating system for the television. In this case, it's WebOS. And so I have to sign terms and conditions. And one of those is the fact that the TV will occasionally send data back to LG giving updates on what content I've been watching. And there was a big to-do about Samsung TVs. Actually, if you plugged a hard drive into them, the Samsung TVs were actually cataloging the content on that hard drive and sending that up to Samsung servers. Really? Like, talk about going out of your way to spy on people. So you got to be really careful as the consumer. So you ask the question, do companies that use digital marketing strategies have a responsibility to their customers to protect their data, or is the data the companies to do with as they please? Well, if you're in Europe, there have been laws passed saying that no, the customer has rights. In America, I'm still waiting for this. I'm still waiting for American lawmakers to protect American consumers. Why aren't they? Well, I'll tell you why. You remember the dog and pony show last year when Twitter, Facebook, Google, others appeared before various committees, and they gave these wonderful statements, and they talked about how they weren't stealing data and they weren't doing this and that. And they got softball questions. And why? Because they're donating large sums of money to those lawmakers. Those lawmakers are not caring about protecting you. They're caring about being reelected. And in order to be reelected, they need the donations from those tech giants. And if you go against one of these tech giants, so if you're a member of the House or the Senate and you start going after Apple, Google, Cisco, Facebook, Twitter, you're going to have a fun re-election campaign, because I guarantee you your content's going to be censored. They're going to put up big money for your opponent to run you out of office. So it's a very tricky situation here. And I've said countless times in other chapters here where I've answered similar questions, Matt, it's buyer beware. It's up to you to try to protect yourself. I mentioned that Jim Comey, the former head of the FBI, he said that, he plugs a headset, he would plug his headset into here, and then he would cut the cord. And that's the only way to ensure that the audio wasn't being picked up. He would put a piece of tape over the camera to ensure that the camera was never being turned on. Now, obviously, if the head of the FBI is saying that, then that means that he knows how the technology is being used to violate your privacy when you're not even aware of it. So buyer beware. Do something like I do. I have a VPN, but of course you have to be wary about the trustworthiness of your VPN, because your VPN is gathering tons of data on you. Your telco is gathering data on you. All of them are reselling it to somebody I'm guessing it, and I can't confirm that everyone is. Apple claims that they're not. Other companies have just blatantly say, yeah, they have, or they've lied about it. So you can use a VPN like I do. I use NordVPN. In fact, I'll put the link to NordVPN in this video if you want to sign up for Nord yourself. I think they're a great VPN. Another thing you can do is something similar to what Jim Comey did. Put a piece of paper or tape, plug in a microphone, cut the cord on that one. Other things that I do to sort of spoof the system is my phone is using one of the three, Google, Yahoo, or Bing. My tablet is using another. My laptop is using another. And by doing that, I'm not allowing any one of them to collect a large sum of data on me. It's divided up. There's ways to get around it. And there are others too, and so you can certainly do a Google search and let Google know that you're trying to thwart the system there. But it's really on you, and it's also on you then as a consumer to complain to the companies, to give up your Facebook or your Twitter account, to not use a particular manufacturer's TV or phone. Or to contact your legislator and demand that they pass a specific piece of legislation that protects your rights as it comes to data. Okay, Matt, that was a fantastic question. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of the questions that I've received over the past 13 episodes for our Marketing Kitchen TV Q&A Live. Thank you so very much. If you've got future questions, you can always ask me, just not in the same formal format outside of the semester. You can ask them via the Twitter feed, and I'll be happy to answer them on the channel. Or you can just comment in the videos below and ask me future questions, and I'll comment back, or if need be, then I'll record a video related to that. Well, thank you very much for again, attending all 13 of these, tuning into them, watching them, liking them, subscribing to the channel, hopefully sharing some of the content with your friends or your colleagues, and of course offering a comment below so that we can engage with one another. All right, thank you so much. I'll see you again on some other social platform, if not on this particular one. Thanks a lot.
That was really good.
I hope you enjoyed this episode. Remember, there's always fresh content simmering on our storytelling stovetop. So whatever happens in this kitchen shouldn't stay in this marketing kitchen. I'm Ron Vining, your host, reminding you to invite your family and friends to the next episode of Marketing Kitchen TV.